and my pronouns are she and her. I am so glad to be here with you today. Thank you for bringing your unique gifts and presents to our gathering as we do our best to build beloved community. If you are visiting with us for the first time, you can get some help and information from the greeters at the welcoming table, and you are especially welcome today. If you have little ones, our greeters can show you the way to the nursery, which is available during the service for children ages 6 and younger. Please be aware that our services are filmed and posted on YouTube. There's a chance that you might be seen in our YouTube video. If you want to make sure that you're not on camera, please sit in the perfume-free zone over here or in the section closest to the back table by the library. Happy Easter. In our pluralistic Unitarian Universalist community, we will often take our cues from the important holidays that are part of the communities that we dwell in. And today, our cues are bunnies and eggs, questions about who exactly this Jesus guy is, and songs with the word Alleluia in them. So our opening hymn is a misprint in the bulletin. Our opening hymn is actually number 269. It's in the thicker gray hymnal. Lo, the day of days are here. Please rise with us in body or spirit for hymn 269. That tries to answer the question, who is Jesus, is a book of poetry called Jesus, the Son of Man, his words and deeds as told and recorded by those who knew him, published in 1928. My copy is the 19th reprinting that was published in 1966. This book has gotten some love. In this imaginative work, Persian poet and mystic Kahlil Gibran tries to put himself in the sandals of Jesus' followers and retractors and participate in their internal wrestling over the identity of this mysterious figure who impacted their lives in one way or another. Each poem is titled after the identity of a person who wrestles with this big question, who is Jesus? Many of the poems are written from the points of view of characters we would encounter in the Bible, but in our call to worship, we hear from a character of Gibran's own making. This is the perspective of Rumenos, a Greek poet, speaking of who he understands Jesus to be. He was a poet. He saw for our eyes and heard for our ears, and our silent words were upon his lips, and his fingers touched what we cannot feel. Out of his heart there flew countless singing birds to the north and to the south, and the little flowers on the hillsides stayed his steps toward the heavens. Oftentimes I have seen him bending down to touch the blades of grass, and in my heart I have heard him say, "Little green things, you shall be with me in the kingdom, even as the oaks of Bashan and the cedars of Lebanon." He loved all things of loveliness, the shy faces of children, and the myrrh and frankincense from the south. He loved a pomegranate or a cup of wine given to him in kindness. It mattered not whether it was offered by a stranger in the inn or by a rich host. And he loved the almond blossoms. I have seen him gathering them into his hands and covering his face with the petals, as though he would embrace with his love all the trees of the world. He knew the sea and the heavens, and he spoke of pearls which have light that is not this light, and of stars that are beyond our night. He knew the mountains as the eagles know them, and the valleys as they were known by the brooks and the streams, and there was a desert in his silence and a garden in his speech. He was a poet, whose heart dwelt in the valley beyond the heights, and his songs, though sung for our ears, were sung for other ears also, and to men in another land where life is forever young and time is always gone. Once I too deemed myself a poet, but when I stood before him in Bethany, I knew what it was to hold an instrument with but a single string before one who commands all of the instruments. For in his voice there was laughter of thunder and tears of rain and the joyous dancing of trees in the wind. And since I have known that my lyre has but one string, and that my voice weaves neither the memories of yesterday nor the hopes of tomorrow, I have put aside my lyre, and I shall keep silence, but always at top twilight.
Good morning. Happy Easter. I'm Denise Mattioli, and I'm your service leader today, and my pronouns are she and her. The lighting of the chalice is a uniquely Unitarian Universalist moment where we celebrate the power and compassion of our community. Our chalice has its origins as a symbol of hope and liberation when the Unitarian Service Committee hastily designed it and then stamped it on the documents that they were using to help Jewish refugees escape Nazi persecution on the eve of World War II. Here, in this community, we connect the lighting of our chalice with the words of our vision statement, which reminds us of who we want to be together. Please say the words of our vision statement with me, which are printed in our bulletin, as we light the chalice together. We work together as a church to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder. We have a very special Easter time for all ages this morning. We'd like to invite the kids, youth, parents, and young at heart to join Reverend Tiffany down front.
Good morning. Today's going to be a fun day, right? Yeah, y'all are going to hunt eggs after the service? Yeah. So today we are going to play 2 quick games that will hopefully teach us something about Easter. Are y'all ready to play a game? Yeah. All right, our first game is one that you know very well. It's called Egg Hunt. So it is about, what do you think? Hunting eggs. Very good. There are 4 plastic Easter eggs hidden in this sanctuary right now. And each of them has something to teach us. So we're going to see how quickly you all can work together. This isn't a competition, it's a teamwork. How you can work together to find these 4 eggs and bring them back to me. I don't want you to open the eggs. I just want you to find them and bring them back to me. Okay? Ready, set, go. Good job. Good job. Y'all are quick. That's 2. All right, that's 3. I'll give you a hint about number 4. It's on that side. It's somewhere over there. Oh, good job. We found all the eggs and we didn't knock over any guitars. Awesome. All right. Great. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Very good job. So that's a little warm up for the egg hunt you're going to do after the service. If you didn't find an egg this morning in the sanctuary, that's fine because there's going to be so many eggs to find after church. So now we're going to see what's in these eggs. And to do that, we're going to play our second game. This game is called Wrong Answers Only. What do you think that game's about? Getting it wrong, right? I figure we can be really successful at getting things wrong. All right, so I'm going to open an egg. We're going to find something inside that teaches us about Jesus. That's the guy this holiday is about. And then I'm going to ask you what the item in the egg teaches us about Jesus, and you are going to do your very best to give me the wrong answer, okay? All right, so let's open the pink egg. What is in the pink egg? You know what this is? Seeds. They're seeds. So what might seeds teach us about Jesus? Remember, wrong answers only. What? No pressure. We'll come back to you. Anyone have a wrong answer? Yes? Seeds are about destroying things. That's a great wrong answer. All right. So what seeds actually do is they remind us that Jesus was a teacher. Instead of teaching people by lecturing them, he taught them by telling stories. And a lot of these stories involved seeds, probably because a lot of the people that Jesus was trying to teach were farmers, so they would understand seeds. So seeds say Jesus is a teacher. All right, so what's inside the blue egg? Let's find out. Oh, what's this? It's a sticker, and it's a heart-shaped sticker specifically. So what might a heart-shaped sticker teach us about Jesus? Wrong answers only. What?
Whipping them.
What?
Whipping them.
Whipping them. Good job, that's a wrong answer. So I'm going to focus on the heart part now. So one of the things that Jesus taught his friends over and over and over was to love each other. He said that loving each other was the most important rule of all. And so the heart teaches us that Jesus teaches us about love. So let's find out what's in the yellow egg. I thought it was wrong answers. You're right, it is money. Good job. So it's money. What could money possibly teach us about Jesus? Let's see if we can give someone a chance who hasn't gone already. Yes? To eat. Money teaches us to eat. That is an excellent wrong answer. All right. So money is in here because a lot of Jesus's teachings were about money as well. During the time and place that he lived, there were just a few super rich, powerful people and a whole lot of poor laborers and farmers. And Jesus spent his time and his attention teaching and working with and helping the poor instead of doing whatever he needed to do to make the rich and powerful happy. So the money reminds us that Jesus especially loves the poor and really anyone who's being left out. And we got one last egg. Uh-oh. What's in this egg? Nothing. There's nothing in this egg. What could nothing teach us about Jesus? I'm going to see if someone else who hasn't gone yet wants to go. No? All right, what can nothing teach us about Jesus? All right, no pressure. What can nothing teach us about Jesus? That Jesus had everything, was completely happy, and had everything he could possibly want. That's a really interesting answer. The egg is empty to remind us about the empty tomb, which is an important part of the Easter story. The story goes that when Jesus died, they put his body in a cave and closed it off with a big stone. But then later, when some of his friends went back to the cave to clean up the body, the stone had been moved and the cave was empty, just like the egg, empty. The mystery made his followers wonder if Jesus had come back from the dead. That's pretty wild, isn't it? Yeah. So the empty egg teaches us that the story of Jesus involves a lot of mystery in it. So, people have told stories about this mystery for 2,000 years, and our special music is going to tell one version of the story today. So we're going to go back to our seats for now, and we're going to listen to that song and see what some of his followers thought about the great mystery.
Swords and torches and the sound of swords. moved him in the night, and none of us knows where. The stone's been rolled away, and now his body isn't there. So we both ran towards the garden, and then John ran on ahead. We found the stone an empty tomb, just the way that Mary said. But the winding sheet they wrapped him in was just an empty shell. The stones were where they'd taken him. It was hard to tell. Oh, something strange had happened there, just what I did not know. John believed a miracle, but I just turned to go. Circumstance and speculation couldn't lift me very high, 'cause I'd seen them crucify him, and I saw him die. Back inside the house again, the guilt and the anguish came. Everything I promised him just added to my shame. When at last it came to choices, I denied I knew his name. And even if he was alive, it wouldn't be the same. Oh, but suddenly the air was filled with a strange and sweet perfume. Light that came from everywhere drove shadows from the room. And Jesus stood before me with his arms held open wide. And I fell down on my knees and I just clung to him and cried. Then he raised me to my feet, and as I looked into his eyes, the love was shining out from him like sunlight from the skies. Guilt and my confusion disappeared in sweet release, and every fear I'd ever had just melted into peace.
Wow. All right. So while we're moving microphones, I'm going to tell a story on our music team. So they sent me a couple of options for Easter, including this recording of Dolly Parton doing that song. And I was like, well, yeah, I'd like this. But in my head, I'm like, how the heck are they going to pull that off? Y'all pulled it off. Wow. Thank you. This week and every week, we return to the knowledge that whatever else is happening in our lives, that there are 100 of quiet griefs and personal joys in our midst. If you want to shine a light on your journey, you can share a joy or a sorrow in person by using these candle cards that are located on the back table. Or if you'd like to share a joy or a concern from a distance, please email minister@hvuuc.org. A joy for Transgender Visibility Day today. It is a joy for me that our community is one that fully welcomes transgender, non-binary, gender fluid, and genderqueer people in our congregation. A congregation where they can be visible if they wish, where they can pass if they wish, and experience a community where they can be fully themselves and accepted. A joy and excitement from James. My lecture recital for my undergraduate honors thesis is this Tuesday at 9 a.m. at the Martin Center in Powell Hall. It is about the history and legacy of the Fender Rhodes electric piano, and all are welcome. Tuesday, 9 a.m. at the Martin Center. Betty Jackson asks that we keep her in our prayers. She has had very good success with the cataract surgery on the first eye and will be having surgery on her second eye on April 4th. So please remember Betty. And a sorrow from Brad and Deb Helmer. Brad's mom, Ruth, passed away last week in Kingsport at the age of 94. Yeah. Ruth kept her love of life and great sense of humor all the way up to her very last days. So we come, bringing all that we are and everything we carry to this table of joy and sorrow, grief and hope, community and care. If you wish to light your own candle, approach the side of the table that is the closest to you, and the closer candle keeper will assist you. Please light the candles at the back of the table first so that no one has to reach over and open flame. And if you wish for us to light a candle for you, please raise your hand until I acknowledge you, and I will light a candle for you. And our community is so much larger than just those who are in the building this morning. And so we light a candle to hold space for those who are not physically present with us, but are ever in our hearts. And we light a final candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and minds.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out
Already heard a few perspectives on Jesus this morning. And now we return to Kahlil Gibran's Son of Man. After Gibran fills the books with other people's perspectives on who Jesus is, he ends the book with this poem, A Man from Lebanon, 19 centuries afterward. Adding his own personal reflection to the mix, writing it as if he's speaking directly to Jesus, it's a rather long poem, so this is just an excerpt. Master singer, master of words unspoken, 7 times was I born and 7 times have I died since your hasty visit and our brief welcome. And behold, I live again, remembering a day and a night among the hills when your tide lifted us up. Thereafter, many lands and many seas did I cross, and wherever I was led by saddle or sail, your name was prayer or argument. Men would bless you or curse you. The curse, a protest against failure. The blessing, a hymn of the hunter who comes back from the hills with provisions for his mate. Your friends are yet with us for comfort and support, and your enemies also for strength and assurance. Your mother is with us. I have beheld the sheen of her face in the countenance of all mothers. Her hand rocks cradles with gentleness. Her hand folds shrouds with tenderness. And Mary Magdalene is yet in our midst, she who drank the vinegar of life and then its wine. And Judas, the man of pain and small ambitions, he too walks on the earth. Even now he preys upon himself when his hunger finds naught else and seeks his larger self in self-destruction. And John, he whose youth loved beauty, is here, and he sings through unheeded. And Simon Peter, the impetuous who denied you that he might live longer for you, he too sits by our fire. He may deny you again ere the dawn of another day, yet he would be crucified for your purpose and deem himself unworthy of the honor. And Caiaphas and Annas still live their day and judge the guilty and the innocent. They sleep upon their feathered bed, whilst he who they have judged is whipped with rods. And the woman who was taken in adultery, she too walks the streets of our cities and hungers for bread not yet baked. And she is alone in an empty house. And Pontius Pilate is here also. He stands in awe before you and still questions you, but dares not risk his station or defy an alien race. And he is still washing his hands. Even now, Jerusalem holds the basin and Rome the ewer, and betwixt the two 1,000,000 hands would be washed to whiteness.
Who is Jesus?
It's a question that has shaped the development of our world for a millennia or two. Scholarly answers are varied. Some, like Richard Carrier and Robert Price, say he's a character in a story that never actually walked the earth, that he was an amalgamation of many Jewish folk heroes and revolutionaries that journeyed around the Roman province of Judea in the first century, healing, teaching, and stirring up trouble against the authorities. They say that he evolved as a reflection of the times based on a combination of more obscure historical figures, similar to how the myth of Robin Hood evolved later on in England. Others, like Robert Funk and John Dominic Crossan, may not debate the existence of the historical figure of Jesus, but argue that the Jesus of history is wildly different from the Christ of faith. They argue that a great deal of the sayings of Jesus in the Bible were words put into his mouth by the authors, decades after the time and events that were covered. Their list of sayings and stories that they are confident did actually come from Jesus is quite small. If you're curious, you can Google Jesus Seminar, actual words of Jesus. And Kahlil Gibran, a mystic and a poet who was born in Lebanon in 1883, wouldn't have known any of that. Raised in an obscure and persecuted branch of Christianity known as the Maronites, he wasn't aware of this scholarship that didn't yet exist. And he also wasn't burdened by fundamentalism, literalism, or the obsession with Jesus dying on the cross for our sins that we see reflected in today's American Christianity. And he wouldn't have conceived of the possibility of life without some form of spiritual devotion either, even if it looks very different from the kinds of Christianity that we are most familiar with here and now. But those of us who know Gibran for his most famous work, The Prophet, know that Gibran's flavor of spirituality is simultaneously imaginative and grounded in the wonder of everyday life, and overflowing with a sense of love and of connectedness to his surroundings. It makes sense then that for Gibran, Jesus would be a poet, a singer, a lover, a master of light in the embodiment of love itself. For Gibran, these are the best things that humans can be. So Jesus, the Son of Man, would be the incarnation of those ideals. He leaves the scholarly work to the scholars and allows his imagination and the storytelling of the Gospels to offer us a window through which we can watch others wrestle with this big question, who is Jesus? His book is subtitled, His Words and His Deeds as Told and Recorded by Those Who Knew Him. All the big names from the gospel stories are here in this book. Ones who loved him, like Peter and John and Thomas and Mary Magdalene, and those who saw him as a dangerous problem, like the high priest Caiaphas. There was the woman caught in adultery, who the Bible leaves unnamed, but Gibran names Joanna. From here, we hear what it feels like to shrug off shame and hold your head high for the first time in your life because someone treats you as a person with worth instead of as human garbage. Exploring the pages of this book, I quickly got the sense that everyone saw him differently, through the lenses of their own circumstances, their own needs, and their own fears. There isn't one Jesus in this book. There are 79 Jesuses, and none of them reflect some sort of pure, essential, unfiltered Jesus, because that's impossible
We only know each other within the context of our lives, and Jesus is no exception. My favorite versions of Jesus in this book are not the ones that dwell in the chapters from the known characters, but the ones that Gibran completely made up. I saw Jesus through the eyes of a misogynistic young priest whose criticisms do more to endear me to Jesus than any amount of praise could, when he gripes about Jesus being too forgiving and daring to treat women with dignity. I'm amused by the rich man who ponders how strange it is that his carpenter became a prophet, noting that he made the best doors he'd ever seen. I love that. And I ache for the Galilean widow enraged at Jesus because her only son abandoned her to follow Jesus around the countryside. And my favorite character was actually my introduction to this collection of poetry over a decade ago, where a shepherd named Sarkis fell asleep in his fields while tending his sheep and dreams that he observes Jesus and the Greek god Pan playing flutes together in the wild places of the world. The way the poem goes, the old god Pan appreciated the young god Jesus' earthiness and love for the world. And when they played together, mountains trembled, and the joys and the pains of the human condition were laid bare, and then they finally came to a beautifully resolved peace. In this poem, Gibran's Jesus is one who leaned into and embraced the other, and the other embraced right back. In Gibran's poetry, every character sees Jesus differently. The merchant saw him as the cleverest merchant. The poet saw him as the most insightful poet. At its heart, it appears that Jesus is the mirror for each of these characters. How they answer the question, who is Jesus, says more about themselves than it does about Jesus. And so it is for all of us. Each of us answer the question differently. For each of us, the answer is more a reflection of our own life's journey than it is about this carpenter turned prophet and healer who may or may not have lived 2,000 years ago. I know that some of us grew up in Christian churches and left, and in the pain of those experiences, don't want to have anything to do with Jesus. And I know that some of us have only been exposed to Jesus through the culture of the American South that we are currently living in. And I know that a few of us have struggled to stay connected to the idea of this character, even as we followed him right out of the churches that claimed to know him. But living in this time and this place means that the question of who is Jesus continues to be important to us collectively. And it will be as long as people use his name to justify harmful beliefs and hurtful behavior. I think that the Jesus we heard about in the simplest terms with these Easter eggs is one that is faithful to the content and the intention of the Gospels, and is the Jesus that we need to hear about right now. One that is connected to those who put their hands in the dirt. One who never stops caring about the poor, the widow, the orphan, the marginalized. The one who brings us back to love over and over and over again. And the Jesus of Gibran, who met people where they were at, saw them and really connected with them. The one that delights in the beauty and the wonder of the world all around him, who told stories and laughed and loved. The one that mirrors us, the best that mirrors us, and in that mirroring encourages us to be the best that we can be. Who inspires us to grow in our authenticity, our compassion, and our wonder. I think that's the Jesus that we need to tell stories about. I've said it before, and I will say it again, probably every Easter, that I'm more interested in the religion of Jesus than the religion about Jesus. I think turning him into a supernatural get out of hell free card diminishes the impact and potential of his teachings. Y'all like that? Making his salvation about an afterlife is a really convenient way of skirting around the deeper truths of his message that was for this world liberation, that was for justice and compassion in making this world better. Thank you. As much as many of us would like to avoid the question of Jesus's identity altogether, I get it. We're tired of hearing about Jesus. We've had our fill of Jesus talk long ago, but we've seen the consequences of leaving the task of defining Jesus to those who do not share our values. Sometimes this gentle, well-placed reframing can make all of the difference. Many years ago, I met a kindergartner who had not grown up in a Christian church, and then inevitably heard an awful lot about Jesus from friends on the playground once he entered school. He told me that he wanted to be a Christian and believe in Jesus because that's what his friends were doing. And before I responded, I thought about what it would mean for that child to be dismissed or ignored or ridiculed for his decision. And I thought about how there's really nothing wrong with Jesus himself, as much as there is about those who would do harm in his name. And so I made a decision. I said, "That's great. You know what my favorite thing is about Jesus?" And he asked, "What?" And I said, "That he loves everyone." And he smiled and said, "That's my favorite thing too." The interest in Jesus didn't last long for that youngin' who was on to the next thing so quickly, in a way that only 6-year-olds can do. But the importance of loving others stuck. And I wonder what the world would be like if whatever myths or characters or religions they used, if they were just used as an arrow to point to love, acceptance, forgiveness, peace, wonder for the world around us, and a power that can dwell within each of us. And for me, that is the North Star that will always shape how I answer the question, who is Jesus?
Let's extinguish our chalice with a few more words from Kahlil Gibran. Okay. 7 times was I born, and 7 times have I died. And now I live again, and behold you, the fighter among fighters, the poet of poets, kings about all kings, a man half naked with your road fellows. Every day the bishop bends down his head when he pronounces your name, and every day the beggars say, "For Jesus' sake, give us a penny to buy bread." We call upon each other, but in truth we call upon you, like the flood time in the spring of our want and desire, and when our autumn comes, like the ebb tide. High or low, your name is upon our lips, the master of infinite compassion. Thank you for being with us today. We'd love for you to join us and stay for coffee hour as our kids will be gathering Easter eggs outside. Did you kids all hear that? Are you ready? Okay. I hear the Easter Bunny's going to be out there as well. We want to thank everyone who has made our pledge drive a success. We met our pledge drive goals. That is really good news. Reverend Tiffany will be out for a week of professional development retreat starting tomorrow. She will not be checking email during this time and will only be available by phone calls for emergencies. We've noticed, unfortunately, that scammers often try to trick us when Reverend Tiffany is out of the office, so be especially careful about not sharing passwords or giving out other sensitive information by email this week. And Reverend Tiffany will never ask you to buy her a gift card for people in need via email, and especially when she's on retreat. In related news, our office hours this week will be Tuesday and Wednesday rather than Tuesday and Thursday. And ladies, there will be a women's night gathering this Friday night. It will be held here at the church at 6:30, and all who identify as women are welcome. Our closing hymn is number 266, Now the Green Blade Riseth in the Gray Hymnal. This is also when we collect the offering that supports our programs, our justice efforts, and our fun community building activities for the whole family. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 266, Now the Green Blade Riseth.
This week and every week. If you're a kid looking to hunt eggs, then as soon as I'm done with this benediction, go on the back porch and wait for instructions. Here's our benediction. May justice lead us to the calling of this moment. May wonder meet us right where we're at. May we discover our collaborators and our companions. And may love guide us on our journey of transformation. Blessed be, amen, and go in peace. We now love when I'm breathing in, I'm breathing peace, when I breathe out, I breathe out love, when I breathe in, I'm breathing out, when I breathe out, I breathe out love, when I breathe in, I breathe out, when I breathe out, I breathe out.